Let's do the intro. I thought you said we couldn't do that live. Welcome to the show's Coach WONDERGEDDON podcast. I am your coach, WONDERGEDDON. Thanks for watching. We are going to talk sports. This is a week, a sad week. We've lost another one, guys. We lost us. Well, we won't even talk too much about this shooting. We all know. Hopefully, everyone here knows by now that Black lives still do matter. Maybe not as much in the U.S. as it does everywhere else, but we're hoping that we change that at some point. We are going to talk mostly sports. Not really going to get into too much of the politician. Yeah, we got rid of that guy, Dragon. We got rid of that guy. I mean, you know what? I'll say this quick because I know you guys saw what was happening inside the chat. If you're not inside the chat room, then jump in if you have anything that you want to say. That's the easiest place for us to see and to converse during the show. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want to get too much into politics. We'll say this though. A lot of brave people are only brave on the internet. Because I know that nobody's going to come up to me and call me a monkey boy in real life because you'll get dummied. And that's really all I have to say about that. Let's talk about NFL, guys. NFL is coming up. A lot of people are doing their drafts this week. A lot of people are doing their drafts early next week. Long weekend is usually the most ideal time that we are going to do it. So we are going to talk about, because last week we talked about drafting a little bit of draft strategies, how we are going to get down and win yourself a league like I had last year and hope to do so again this year. We talked about the Mahomeses. We talked about the McCaffreys. This time we are going to talk about our fantasy sleepers, and by sleepers I mean players that might not even be drafted in this league. We're gonna do it pretty quick. I'm only gonna name three people. One person is a little bit of far fetch, a high gamble, high risk, high reward. Another guy is yeah, I'd call him a sleeper. The other guy is a completely might not even be worth it, but we hope for the best. All right. As I said, draft is coming. Let's look for some speakers. Why is that not? Why is that so loud? All right, so let's talk sleepers, guys. NFL sleepers. We're gonna go with one that might get drafted really low, but somebody that you should look out for is Nick Foles from the Bears. Chicago Bears quarterback. He might not get picked up, but I'll tell you what: if you do pick him up, you might have yourself a better season than expected. Nick Foles is not a name that pops up when you're thinking about the top 10. You're probably not even thinking top 15 when you're thinking Nick Foles. But I'll tell you what he does have. He has a Chicago team who's about to lose their franchise, if you could call him that, quarterback. Trubinsky. He's probably going to be released, or not released. He'll probably be replaced as a starter by Nick Foles. Nick Foles came from Jacksonville. He has had, would say, minimum success in Jacksonville. He did get injured and got replaced by Gardner Minshew the second, but he went to start himself a new start in Chicago. Obviously, before he went to Jacksonville, he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, somewhat of a hero. Won himself a championship as the backup. Now he's going to start, looks like another career resurgent with the Chicago Bears. Why do I think he's going to have a better season than expected? I'll tell you why. One name, Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson has been with Chicago for the last couple years now. And despite the terrible quarterback situation that Chicago's had for the last couple years with Trubisky playing well under what we expected him to be able to play, Allen Robinson still manages to put up 1,000-yard seasons. Last year, I believe he had 1,100 seasons. I'm expecting him to continue that with a better quarterback, one being Nick Foles, who, as I said, might not even be drafted in some drafts this year. But because of the strength of Allen Robinson and the fact that their offensive line actually is not that bad, I think that he's going to have himself a pretty good season. My second pick is somebody that if you've ever been in a league with me, you would probably see him on my team. I think for the last 2 years, he's underachieved in those 2 years because I have such a high roof for him, and he's let me down for the last 2 years. But I'm going to try one more time, and I'm going to tell you guys about D.D. Westbrook with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is a slot receiver for the Jags. Gardner Minshew second, as I said. He should be having himself a good year this season. Last year he got injured where Nick Foles had to take over and show his stuff a little bit, gave Dede a little bit of life. But as I said, Nick Foles has been moved over to Chicago. Dede Westbrook has a new quarterback. I guess you could say again because Gardner was the starter before he got injured and came back. I expect him to have a better season this year, a little bit more chemistry with Dede Westbrook. I hope this is the year that Dede puts up some numbers that are to be proud of. As I said, I had him in years before. I didn't expect him to be as good as. Nah, I expected him to be way better, and he failed me. But I think this year, in a situation that's a little bit more consistent with only one starting quarterback and not two, I think that Dede Westbrook might have himself a good season. My third guy is a little bit of a stretch. I got Alexander Mattison from the Minnesota Vikings. I personally think him being the handcuff of Dalvin Cook, who's healthy now, but has always had questionable health for the last few seasons when it comes to football. If anything does happen to him, which has happened in the last couple of years, you might be looking at one of the best handcuffs in the NFL. Alexander Mattison is second year, maybe a second year receiver, and he is what they call dumb nice. But if Dalvin Cook stays healthy all season, that might not be a good pick. But if you have a slot left and you want to gamble a little bit in your league, then I suggest that you pick up an Alexander Mattison on your bench. That's all we're going to talk about for football now. We are going to talk about, let's talk about Major League Baseball. And I'm not even going to go to commercial. We're going to go straight to it. All right, so we are in what we would call the mid-season of baseball. This year, technically, this is the halfway point. 2-week playoffs for the average fantasy baseball season. 2-week playoffs, 7-week season. We are in week 5. I am minutes away. Today is August the 30th. I am minutes away of being 5-0 on my fantasy baseball team. And I know what some of you guys are thinking. How? How am I able to do this? Why am I so ridiculously awesome at fantasy baseball? I'll tell you why. It's because I find the breakthrough guys at the right time. You know what? I'm not even going to say the right time. I will say that I picked them up probably a little bit too late, but luckily nobody else picks them up before me. So I stay winning. And I'm going to give you guys a couple picks that you should have picked, and if you see them out there in your fantasy league, pick them up with the quickness because these guys might win a league for you. I'm not the only person in my league that's 4-0 right now. I think I'll be 5-0 in a few minutes. There's another team that I think is 4 with a tie. And personally, I think that if me and him faced off, I'd probably beat him too. But I'm going to discuss why. I'm going to give you guys 3 players who I picked up that have changed my season for the better. Number 1 is from the Mets, Dominic Smith. Dominic Smith was just being picked up really, really heavy in the last couple weeks. This guy's batting 333 or 320 average. Last week, he averaged 333, so he's relatively consistent. We're looking at 18 extra base hits and 24 RBIs. More than enough, especially for a short season. He doesn't have a lot of time to drop off, and as I like to call, and I'm gonna swear probably on the show for the first time in a long time, I hope he doesn't what we call shit the bed. 18 base hits, man, that can't be ignored. I can't imagine that he's gonna start slowing down too much. If he does slow down, I mean, maybe down to a 300 hitter, but that would have to take a stop in his offensive production. I don't see that happening unless he gets injured. Knock on wood on that. The second guy that I have picked up, and I recommend that if he's out there, you pick him up too. Hurry up, Cincinnati Reds Jesse Winker is also batting 333 this season. This guy has 31 hits and I think 89 at bats or something crazy like that. He has 10 home runs. He's full outfield eligible, which means he could play either side of the field and center field, left, right, center. This is the kind of guy that you need, especially if he's as hot. He's probably the hottest hitter on the planet, minus maybe a Manny Machado or Manny Machado is probably the hottest guy in baseball right now, but right up there is Jesse Winker, if not maybe even higher. As I said, full outfield eligible, left field, right field, center field, you put him in there, and if you got to find an extra person to play around him, it's a lot easier when you can move him around. The third guy, I cannot say, I think this is the third week in a row that I'm doing something like this. Last week I mentioned him. The week before I said I was never going to get him. This week I'm going to tell you guys about Randall Grichuk. He plays for the Blue Jays. I told myself I wasn't gonna draft a Blue Jay this year. I lied. Not only did I draft him, he's having one hell of a season for me as well. 306 average. You're talking about nine home runs and 23 RBIs. He's batting second for the Jays every day. He's been the number 2 guy all season, I guess you can say. 9 home runs, 23 RBIs, 300 average. You cannot ask for more. He's a center fielder / right fielder. He's hitting everything that's in front of him. As I said, 9 home runs, 23 RBIs in a shortened season, in a Major League Baseball short season fantasy wise. Those numbers cannot be beat. Randall Grichuk. Toronto Blue Jays, 306 average. As I said, pick up one of these guys. If you can pick up 2 of these guys, then you have a really good team. If you pick up all 3 of these guys, there's a very good chance that you are going to at least make the playoffs or mess with somebody pretty good on the when the playoffs come, at least for this season. All right, so that's it. NFL. We did baseball. We're going to take a quick break, probably about 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to talk about NBA. I waited NBA last because I know you guys like to talk about that one the most. I'm going to take a couple calls after this break. We are going to talk NBA, as I said, right after this break. All right. We are back. Welcome back to the second half of this show, the Higher Movement Showcase. This is the Coach Wondergeddon Show podcast. Coach Wondergeddon podcast. I'm your coach, Wondergeddon. We are going to talk about a little bit of NBA now. What am I talking about? NFL. We're going to talk about some NBA. We're going to give you a bubble ball championship update. We had to stop playing because of some political issues that's going on in America. Long story short, Black lives do matter. And that's really, I'm not going to say too much more about that. People were on the line earlier trying to debate whether that was true or not. Long story short, it's absolutely true. And all lives don't matter until Black lives matter. Also, you know what? Since I'm talking about Black lives and such, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. I'm so used to calling him Black Panther that I forgot his real name. I've been calling him Black Panther all day. Unfortunately, he passed, 43 years old. Um, Cancer, prostate cancer. Sad to say. Um, yep. So we are going to talk about the bubble ball. Since we left off, there was a shooting that we're not going to talk too much about. Not at this point, not in this juncture. So let's talk about some of the ball stuff. The Bucks beat the Magic 4-1 finally. I know it felt long because it was a wild week for Black America. No surprise there. They're going to face the Heat in the first round. Miami Heat, who easily dispatched the Indiana Pacers, if you forgot. Toronto swept the Nets, but since we've watched the show, Game 1 against the Celtics, who swept Philly, happened, and the Celtics gave us the work. Straight beaten. I don't even remember the score. I didn't want to talk about the score. Hopefully it was a small kink in the armor for the Raptors. Game 2 is going to be coming up. Today's Sunday, so Game 2 is going to be coming up on Tuesday. I'm expecting the Raptors to play better than they did on this game. We're down 1-0 in that regard. First round action, the Rockets are up on OKC 3-2. I'll be honest with you, game 5, Russell Westbrook came back to regulate the things. He didn't play for the first 4 games, and I bet you when he looked and saw that the Rockets and the Thunder were still tied, he said, enough of that, I'm going to come out and play. So that's what he did. Rockets are now up 3-2. Clippers just defeated the Mavs 4-2 in their series. Yes, they are. Nice round 1 definitely for the Raptors. Round 2 is going to be a lot harder facing the Celtics before when they were facing the Nets. Clippers beat the Mavs 4-2 thanks to Marcus Morris's flagrant foul on Luka Doncic. Obviously, Kawhi dropping 33 points with 14 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 steals probably was the kiss of death for the Mavs as well. But let's be honest, Marcus Morris's flagrant foul. Luka Doncic, yeah, he had a bad ankle, and Marcus Morris actually targeted that ankle with a flagrant foul and kind of deflated the momentum that the Mavs had. Utah Jazz 3-2. That is still going. Jamal Murray versus Donovan Mitchell. They're both going absolutely nuts. Did they both have 50-point games? I think they both had 50-point games at some point. Jamal Murray scoring way more points than I thought that he was going to play. That he was going to score. He's actually going completely off right now. 3-2. Utah Jazz over the Nuggets so far. Lakers, if you don't know, the Lakers clamped down on the Trail Blazers. Dame time expired. They're gone 4-1. Anthony Davis and LeBron James went off. I mean, if you call Dwight Howard's 11 points help, then they had a little bit of help. But Anthony Davis and LeBron didn't have any help. They finished Dame time. Dame was not there, so Dame time is done. Lakers next round. A lot of people are asking why the NBA players stayed in the bubble. Some of you think that they chickened out on what could have been an opportunity to leave a message. I don't believe that personally. I think they could do a lot of good in the bubble. We're going to speak to Rob in a couple minutes. Hopefully he's hearing me. Hello. Is this Rob's?
Speaking.
All right. This is Rob from the Hardwood Report. We are going to get a Hardwood Report on the WONDERGEDDON podcast right now. Congratulations to me.
Appreciate it.
How you doing out there, Robs?
I'm good. I'm just here watching this Utah game,
Yeah, Utah's still playing. I'm
Mm.
not able to watch it right now. I'm gonna jump off and watch it right now. What quarter are they in?
It was the end of the third before I switched off and came to the Twitch stream.
Okay, what was it? Who was winning?
It was back and forth, like, they're switching leads, but last I checked, Denver was up by 4.
Okay, okay. Who's playing better in this game, Jamal Murray or Donovan Mitchell?
Honestly, they're both doing their thing, you know what I mean? I mean, Jamal Murray had 25 in the first, so, like, that's always a positive, but then Donovan Mitchell's doing everything he can, too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk bubble.
All right.
We were talking about it earlier before we came on the show. I want to have this conversation a little bit more for people to hear. We were talking about reasons why the NBA players did not leave the bubble. I know a lot of people thought that they should have left the bubble in order to join in the protests and to join into the real world, I guess you could say in this case. What do you know, or what have you put together as far as why they have not left the bubble? First off, I guess the first question would be, do you agree with them staying in the bubble, or do you think they should have left the bubble?
See, here's my thing, and, like, this may not necessarily be a popular opinion, but here's my thing. Okay, you're not playing, right? Mm-hmm. That's your stand. That's where you stand. That's how you're saying that that's your form of protest. All right, cool. And then what? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing about it is, by you not playing, it doesn't directly help the cause. Like, you know what I mean? We have guys like Donovan Mitchell who say, okay, I'm going to donate $45,000, which is matched by Adidas, to submit to his children's education fund. Right. We have other guys stepping up and saying they're going to donate here, they're going to do this and that. Those are actual efforts behind words that are just saying, okay, I'm about it. But for the most part, these guys are just saying, I'm not playing, and then what? Yeah. What are you doing?
I'm just not playing.
You could take a stand, say you're not playing, but then follow up with some action. And I feel like the problem with the people in the bubble now, or the problem with a lot of people just generally, is that they look to these NBA players to be these spokespeople and these role models for certain, like, current and popular events, and that's not necessarily the case. Right? LeBron James has influence, but that's not necessarily the direct person you should be looking at to invoke change in a political setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So just follow it up with change is what I'm saying. So I feel like they chose to stay in the bubble, and it's the right decision because there's so many ramifications that follow after that. So.
Agreed. Anything else that you think? Does anything catch your eye as far as what people are doing for the? I guess for the cause, I guess would be for the most part.
Well, like, yeah, obviously you have, like, guys like Donovan Mitchell and, like, a couple other players donating, but like, what I did like is how they turned the arenas into voting stations to, like, raise voters' awareness. So in impoverished neighborhoods or in like marginalized neighborhoods, they're now able to go to the arena and vote, and also they also lobbied against the league and the owners. So that they can kind of put their resources to use to invoke change. But one thing I did want to mention was that I don't think the general population actually understands why the players went back to the bubble. Like, I think the average fan was probably saying, oh, they're not really about it, or it's just lip service. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. A lot of people don't know that, like, the CDA, or the collective bargaining agreement between the players' associations and the owners, is a real delicate contract. Like, anything could upset that relationship, and basically the owners called their bluff. They said, look, if you guys aren't going to play, that's fine, but I'm not going to pay you $30 million to sit on the sidelines. I'm going to cancel this agreement that we have, and we'll renegotiate when all this settles. Yeah. So that $30 million you were planning to make next year, oh, no, we're going to cut that, and that might be a 15, maybe even a 12.
Maybe even
right?
a 10.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is fair. Right? So it's all give and take at the end of the day. I just feel like if the NBA players, some of them were really about it and followed up their words with action, whereas other ones were just doing lip service.
Yeah. Do you think that? Did you think coming in that it was going to be a lot of lip service? I'll be honest with you. When it first came down, I thought this was just going to be just another time that a black person got killed on TV by the protectors and the servers. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a movement that surpassed any other movement that we've had in the past maybe 10 years, where a lot of it is I don't want to put too much out there as far I don't want to make it sound too negative of the changes that were attempted to be made, but I find it's hard to watch it and thinking that something more is going to happen out of it. I feel like sometimes you wonder if people just kind of see the pretty flower and stop what they're doing when they're running through shit, you know?
You see, the thing about it with me is just like I'm a firm believer in action behind words. So guys like LeBron James and other superstars in the league, we've seen them not only speak their mind freely and candidly, but they've also followed up with action. Like LeBron has donated has had many events. He's donated money. He's built a school. He's done so much for his people, and he's followed up with action. But 80% of these players are just doing lip service. All right, I don't feel comfortable playing in the bubble given what's going on in my country. Okay, so what are you doing about it? You know what I mean?
Right.
What are you doing about it? You're a millionaire. You make $10 million this year. You live in a state where you don't pay income tax. What are you doing about it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You going out there and protesting like a regular man isn't doing enough for a man of your stature and your position. So if you're not going to fork out the $1 million check like some of these athletes are actually doing, shout out to Donovan Mitchell and LeBron, I don't want to hear from you because you're no better than me who's saying I'm going to go out there and do whatever I got to do and protest.
And we're
the difference
still
is
gonna
you
work.
got the funds and the resources. Yeah, right?
Yeah. And we still have to go to work because we don't have the finances to sit down and say, I could take time off and think about it. I ain't got that.
I would just say that for the people that are out there, the NBA players specifically that are saying, I don't feel comfortable, yada, 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 save it because you're no different than any other black man walking in the country. If you really want to make a change, sign that check and put some funds behind a movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know you mentioned Donovan Mitchell, and I know you mentioned LeBron. Is there anybody else that's kind of standing out as trying to make a real difference to the community? Obviously, everybody still has the names on their back, the Black Lives Matters on the back.
Yeah.
Remember to say my names and all that other stuff. Is there anyone that you named the two that kind of stood out to me the most, which was but is there anybody else out there that's kind of doing something at least a little bit different enough to mention?
Well, I would throw Jamal Murray in that conversation too, my mistake, because he has donated some of the proceeds from his new shoe towards the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay. Probably the biggest one that a lot of people don't know is Chris Paul, just because he is the president of the Players Association, and he's on numerous occasions he's mentioned that he's integrating various clauses and policies that would essentially have some of the money that comes in for the Players Association funnel through to different initiatives that would support the Black Lives Matter movement. It hasn't been highly publicized just because those numbers are covert. Like they're hard figures. Obviously, you know they're getting money, but they're never going to release how much money it is.
Right.
But they're just going to mention that they are putting it towards various initiatives leading and contributing towards Black Lives Matter movement. So I'll probably say Chris Paul just because of what he's been doing, although it's not highly publicized. And then there's guys doing stuff in the community. Like Giannis has donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to people back in Greece. And I know that people like to say that this is a domestic issue, but we're in Canada, so who are we to say that it's not happening in Greece just the same way it's happening in Canada?
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, there's various players doing things on a small scale. And again, it doesn't always get publicized, but those are kind of some of the main ones that people might not necessarily know about.
I feel like in a climate like this, that smaller scale is a good way to go, like smaller and kind of spread out. I think this is a perfect example of not putting too many eggs into one basket. Put a bunch of small pockets of people trying to do positive, and especially in this case with NBA players, you can actually look at them as funders for the most part. They can put down a substantial amount of money that we would usually have to go beg the government for, or try to gather everybody up to make a movement. I think I think one of my biggest things is not even a dollar. It's not about a dollar, right? It's about you willing to say you're behind a movement, because a lot of guys, especially when it pertains to athletes, they want to maintain their image and they don't necessarily want to muddy up their names with certain types of things because it's not politically correct or it doesn't rub certain people the right way. So just even you're putting your face out there and being on the forefront and say, I donated, even if it's $1 behind this movement because I strongly believe in the values that they're upholding.
It
Yeah.
means much more than the money that you're putting up, right? Rather than some guys that are just yapping at the lips. Meanwhile, they're at poolside kick up with a red stripe. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think
so
do you think that the NBA bubble is in some ways Wakanda?
what
Like
do you
a,
mean exactly?
see when I say that is the NBA Wakanda, what I mean by that is you have a place in the middle of a country which is almost ungoverned by the regular United States of America. You have a
Hmm.
bunch of influential black people. You have a bunch of them with time. And I feel like a place like that, almost like a Wakanda. I think I'm more using Wakanda just because of the Black
Yeah,
Panther
yeah, I get it. Yeah,
death and
yeah.
such. But I feel like when you're in a place where you have people who are financially, I would say, financially independent for the most part. I feel like a place like that with a lot of black people who are influential
Hmm.
and can get their point across to their colleagues. I feel like that is a pocket of I don't want to say you know what I mean when I say Wakanda,
Yeah, I
but
get what you're saying, but
I feel like a pocket like that is, especially in a climate that America seems to always be in,
mhm.
is a pretty good and positive start if you're trying to make a major change.
Yeah, I would take it one step further. I would even say it's a safe haven, right? Because very seldom do you find yourself in a situation where you're surrounded by people of similar incomes, right?
Yeah.
People that you work with, your peers, and the people that are experiencing the same struggles as you are as a black man, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's white NBA players, but for the majority, it's a black league, right? So I feel like that intersectionality is very unique. You're never really going to find those factors all coming together at once. So for the fact that Giannis could go and talk to LeBron, could chop it up with Kawhi, could chop it up with the people all around the league that really have influence.
Yeah.
It kind of creates that safe haven mentality where, like, now everybody can talk about things that normally wouldn't be able to get discussed in a regular day or a regular setting. And now we could actually come together and focus our energy on a goal, right?
Yeah.
Work towards something,
Yeah.
right? Again, Wakanda might be the extreme, right? It might be a fantasy, but in a smaller setting or on a lesser level, I agree with you to some degree. It is.
Yeah. Absolutely, they're not sitting on vibranium over there. That's for sure. But
But
I
you never
think,
know. Still,
but
because
I
I've seen
think,
the way Giannis was moving.
yeah, right. Trust me, trust me. But you know what? That's exactly what I think I needed to hear. I think that's what a lot of people need to hear. Do you feel like we're in a silver lining? Do you think there's gonna be change, or do you think the civil unrest is gonna continue once the sport's finished and everything's out of sight and out of mind again?
See, I think, and again, on my podcast, I discussed this in detail, but I think one of the issues is that, again, we're looking at the wrong people to invoke change, right? A guy like LeBron James or anybody who's hot at the top of the ranks in the NBA has influence, but is not the influence, right? We need to understand the difference and the distinction, right? LeBron James has influence because he has power, he has money. He's a he's a public figure. Like, he's gonna have influence in certain circles, right?
Right.
But ultimately, we need to understand, as a people, who are the ones making these policies that are blatantly racist or are in favor of white people and not minorities. Like, most people could tell you who led the league in scoring, but can't tell you who their local MPP is. Like, you know what I mean?
And that's
And
crazy
I feel
to
like,
me. Because,
yeah, that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
The guy who you complain about potholes every single day in your community, and you don't know the guy to contact. That's literally, you're paying out your government taxes, right?
Yeah.
And he's waiting for people to call him with issues and whatnot, and you don't even know his name. You don't even know whether he gives a fuck. You know what I mean?
It's crazy to me that I hope I'm not misquoting, but did they say that only 25% of the players in the NBA are registered voters?
Yep, that's true.
That's
Right?
crazy.
And again, that goes to my point. You're looking at the wrong people to make the decisions, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Google your local MPP. Google who's your premier. Google how certain things get done in and around your city or your municipality or region. Like, there's people who are literally getting paid to hear what you have to say and take in your input.
And they're not
most
taking
people
calls.
can't tell you that. Exactly. Most people can't tell you who that is, but they tell you the last 10 MVPs. And yeah, that's a great stat, knock on wood. But that's not going to make much change if we're not directing our energy in the right spaces, right?
Agreed. So what do you think? What do you think? And what do you think's happening in the second round? Anything crazy that you? Any hot takes?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The way that Toronto got slapped up today is looking grim still.
It looked bad,
Looking
eh?
real grim. Let me tell you why it looks bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because Toronto's a team where we don't have the top tier talents, right? Like, we don't have a true number one.
Yeah.
Pascal right now is masquerading as one, but we all know he's excelled at his height as a number two, right? So the Raptors are a team we can never really rally back. We're not one of those teams that can be down 25 and come back, right? We're a team that kind of has to stay in the game the whole game, and then either our bench mob comes through and makes the push when the starters are resting, or the starters come through and they kind of tear away. We can't rally. So right off the bat, when I seen today's game and I seen that we're down almost 20 and a quarter,
and couldn't even chip it down to a 15 or a 10.
Exactly. That startles me, and it just lets me know that this team, it was the base of the team, like the floor of the team is very good, but Kawhi elevated that floor to a point where we were now championship contenders. But without him, it looks like we're one of those run-of-the-mill teams that may be a really good regular season team, but struggles to beat real championship squads in the playoffs. Because I was looking at some guys on our team today, I'm like, this doesn't look good. Like, Van Vliet does not look like a third option. Marc Gasol looks like he's stuck in mud.
Yeah.
Like, Pascal has been playing poorly since the bubble started. Lowry was Lowry, so you never really know what you're getting with him. It's one day it's great, and one day it's not good. And frankly, who's on the bench that you could really say is going to come off and give me 20 points? Stormin Norman? I don't have faith in that. So
I have a... Well, today kind of shook it a little bit. I have faith in Norman Powell coming off the bench. As I said, it's game one. I expected this. I did not expect an ass kicking. I didn't expect. When I saw the game go up to about 15 points, I still thought that it was within range because 90% of the league, that's still within a Raptor victory range. You could still drop 2-3 threes, and next thing you know, we're down by one within a minute or two of gameplay. But this one, I mean, when we beat the Nets bad, it wasn't like this. When we beat the Nets bad, we watched them give up and we saw them quit. And then we saw Lowry go down, and we just saw the bench let them have it. I don't think we're gonna have the benefit of a deep bench like we did in the first round. And right now, our 7 players that I thought were going to be the catalyst for I wouldn't say easy victory, but at least comfortable at points, didn't show up. Like I thought.
But here's the problem. In a series like this, and this is again why I say Kawhi elevated our floor so much, because if you take the top 5 players in the series, Boston might have 3 of them.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. Right? So
yeah, maybe 4.
How does that bode well for you? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's always going to be hard for you to beat a team like that when they legitimately have 4 guys that can go out there and give you 20 a game.
Yeah. I feel like
and mix in a little Marcus Smart.
just enough to piss people off.
Exactly.
Just enough to piss people off. It's crazy. Exactly. It's crazy to me when I watched that game, and it was me, you, and Ryan, the Hamp, and he's a diehard Celtics fan, and I'm a pretty diehard Raptor fan. And the humbling that I was like, how much are we gonna win by today? Now, granted,
I was talking shit too.
I thought the Raptors were gonna lose this game, and then adjust for the second, and then just keep pumping them. Every game is gonna be hard.
It's definitely gonna be hard. It's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah.
Even if we win, it's gonna be a close win.
Yeah. The 20 points that. This was the only way that I didn't want the Raptors to lose. I was okay with a 10 points, just almost like a rust, because if you really take it in, I mean at the same time the Celtics kind of rested their first round too, but the Raptors really rested on their first round. Like their bench played the last 2 quarters against the Nets, and then we had the week
Exactly.
off, and they came back, and we're not gonna have the benefit of the 9, 10, the 9, 10 guys deep that are just gonna be bombing threes. We still have
Mm-hmm.
7 guys that have to play at least a semi-legitimate defense as well, which the
Mm-hmm.
Raptors are usually good for. But that was a rough one to watch, man. Game 1 was a hard one to watch.
It was definitely hard, especially when you have a Celtics fan yapping in your ear.
All up in it, and he got to talk the whole game because the Raptors allowed that game to get out of hand so quick. But
It's
yeah,
wild, man. It's wild.
I mean, it's the playoffs. We have to expect this stuff. You never really know until the games are played. But
Exactly.
I thought I at least knew a little bit of what was going on before the game when the game was starting. I didn't expect a 20 point ass kick, and
It goes to show, man. Anything can happen when playoffs start because the numbers can say everything. The numbers would have told you that we weren't even supposed to make the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and then look at us now,
right.
champions.
Defending champions, and even if we lose it this year, I still don't think we're gonna lose it. But even if we did lose it, at least worst case scenario, someone's gonna get a star beside that championship. It won't be a
No, we're definitely losing it this year. Let's not kid ourselves.
You think so?
Come on, no, come
All
on,
right,
come on.
I don't want to hurt my feelings. Let's talk about something else. Question for you: the game time's over, right?
Mm.
The Raptors, or sorry, the Lakers, kind of clamped down on the Trailblazers thing. Do you think that when Dame time expired, and the Lakers ended up winning, did they win in a fashion that convinces you of anything, like an NBA
Lakers?
Finals? Yeah.
All right, let me tell you about the Lakers because I'm real opinionated on the Lakers. Here's the problem with the Lakers.
All right.
They've shown us who they are all season long.
All
it's just
season.
that people have neglected to take in the hints. The problem with the Lakers is that outside of their 2 best players, they have no depth.
Absolutely none. And that was my problem. That's what I saw. That's what I saw with this series. Is that they're 2 men
So
deep.
when you look at it and you take it in, you're like, okay, even if Anthony Davis and LeBron James play their best game, granted, I'm going to give LBJ a little bit more credit than most because we've seen what his top is compared to others, and it's clearly different. But we're talking about year 17.
Yeah.
So if LeBron and AD play the way that you want them to play, or that you expect them to play, you still got to find, even if they drop 75 between them, you still got to find 30, 40 points out of some of these other bums on the roster.
Yeah. And you would think that if you're only looking for 20 or 30, you would think that would be in your starting lineup somewhere.
Exactly, and it's not.
It's
and that's
not.
the reality. It's not.
Dwight Howard put up 11 points, and without those 11 points, I don't think they won that game.
Exactly. And the thing about it is they have guys on the roster that are so, like, wishy-washy. It's crazy. Like, Caldwell Pope is the same guy that would go out there and hit 7 of 9 shots, and it'd be like, this guy's a 3-and-D player. And then the other night, you'll see him go 0 of 9. You're like, is this guy, like, on his way up the league?
Is he an NBA? Is he even an NBA player?
Danny Green can't dribble the ball, and he clearly can't defend. He can't shoot the ball. Dwight Howard's back is spicy. Like, you know what I mean? Deion Waiters damn near looks like he's still fried off the edible. Like,
he's,
you know what I mean? Like, it's a hodgepodge over there, and it's just like I feel like LeBron is. He's always kind of like that type of team, to kind of like makeshift random guys on the team because he kind of controls everything and everything runs through him. But in year 17, I don't know, man. I don't, especially the way that the Clippers are its own thing. But I don't know if you're in 17, Bron's going to be able to kick it into that 5th gear and say, "Hey, I got you guys, jump on." I don't know.
I think I agree with you. I think I agree with you. I don't like watching the Lakers team. I haven't liked watching them this whole summer. They keep winning, which is weird to me because I don't feel. I mean, NBA regular season, 2 of the top 5 guys, you do what you want. You go and you win those games because you're facing a lot of crap teams. I didn't think that that it was going to translate to a lot of victories in the playoffs. But what can I say about LeBron? LeBron's LeBron, right? I've watched him will his way. I watched him bring Jamario Moon to the finals. You know,
It's
I
a
watched
big
him.
fact.
I watched him bring his father-in-law Delonte West to the finals. I watched
Like I was on the street, holy.
just homeless shooting guns at people. Wild. But but yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the Lakers team yet. I don't know if I've learned anything. Like even when the Raptors were beating up the Nets, I learned that if these guys come off the bench and shoot threes, they're pretty hard to stop. I've learned
Here's
that.
my only thing though. Like the thing about it is that the Raptors, I feel like the problem with, and this is probably partially the reason why I say that it's never good to talk about a team that someone says is their favorite because they're always going to be biased.
Yeah, oh,
I'm a homer,
absolutely.
you're a homer.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a homer, you're a homer. So we're looking at the Raptors gameplay through a different lens. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We're looking at it, oh my gosh, he went 3 of 11, but damn, he had 6 steals for Van Vliet today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So we're always going to find the good spots in a bad game. Whereas if we're really looking at the gameplay objectively, they played bad. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no bright spots. They played bad. They got their ass whooped.
Today was probably the worst shooting I've seen the Raptors play. I've seen the Raptors shoot. And
definitely in a while for me.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I'm looking at it wondering how much of it, like, especially as a fantasy GM as well, you have to gauge. You have to gauge how much is the defense's fault, how much is just the off night fault, and how much is just pressure. And I don't feel like the pressure should be that hard on them right now. They are the defending champions. I feel like they just got slapped. I feel like they could come back from this, maybe win game 2 by like a 6 points if they can get their shooting figured out. Shooting is one of those things. All you can do if you're a shooter to get out of the funk is keep shooting, right?
Exactly.
So I feel like game 2 they can pull it out. I don't want to put that energy in the air for karma to show itself. I feel like the Raptors are still in a good place, but it's rough. It's a rough one to watch as a fan.
It really depends, man. We're gonna have to show some resiliency over the next game or two.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're also gonna have to show some damn pride. Like,
yeah,
Pascal can't go out there and be doing what he's doing right now, man.
We have to get it. We have to get to 2-1.
Definitely.
Yeah, we have.
No doubt.
Anything less than 2-1 for the Raptors, my confidence is shaken as far as if we can go back to back. That's how I feel about that. But listen, once again, thank you for calling, Rob's Hardwood Report. Tell us about it. Give us a quick Hardwood Report. What was your topic this week?
Well, Hardwood Report, we do it twice a week. Available on all streaming platforms. You can check it out wherever it's at. We did one about Jacob Blake. It was a real heated discussion. It's kind of messy, but when you're talking about certain subjects like that, it's always going to get kind of messy.
Yeah.
New episode dropping tomorrow where we get into some of the game recaps and also talk about Defensive Player of the Year. And we're not shy about it. It's not for the weak-hearted or the faint-hearted. So we really dig into it. So every Thursday and every Monday we drop an episode. You guys can find it wherever you find your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Himalaya, Google Podcasts, Radio Podcasts, Overcast, whatever it is, you can find it there. I made sure it's there. So,
all right, perfect. Rob, thanks for calling. And as usual, you have the green light to call whenever you feel like it. If somebody's on the phone, I'll run them off the phone and make you and get you to call.
I'm showing you. I'm on the Twitch stream. I like the background music. It keeps me mellow. You know what I mean?
Right. We put the music there too so that people can walk off and listen to it. Especially when I go on the commercials and stuff, get some vibes, get you into the same mood. I don't have to play nothing heavy and get you hyped up to do anything. We're in our yard, We're quarantining at least we're still on like 20% quarantine. So just vibes, Watch the show and input where you have to input.
And it is the Higher Movement, right?
That's it, the Higher Movement Showcase. You done know. Well, listen, Rob, again, thanks for calling. We will link up. We will link up soon, guys. As I said, everyone that's watching, this is Rob from the Hardwood Report. Make sure that you watch, or that you could watch it on you could listen to on so many platforms. Hardwood Report, guys. All right, Rob, thanks for calling.
No worries, anytime.
All right, brother.
All right.
All right, guys. I know we flooded us with information. I hope that all of us have some input that we want to put in. We'll put that inside the chats. Social media outlets. We have Coach Wondergeddon on Facebook. I have Coach Wondergeddon also on Instagram. Just go on Coach Wondergeddon, all caps, one word. If you look in the corner there, which corner are we at? The top left corner. We have the QR code for the WhatsApp group. Feel free to join the WhatsApp group. I try not to annoy people with too much sports talk, but I'm not gonna lie, we get pure sports talk in there. There's always somebody leaving when they run out of stuff to say, or when they go on when they get in the WhatsApp group and they missed 120 messages. That's because we're talking sports in there. We're going to continue talking sports in there at all time. What we're not going to do anymore is talk about sports on the show, because it is 11 o'clock and we are just about concluded. As I said, we are here every week. We like to start the show between 9 and 10 o'clock. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it starts at 9. Sometimes it starts at 9:30. Sometimes it starts at 10. Blame COVID. Don't blame me. Thanks for watching the show, guys. Next week, again, as usual, we're going to talk NFL, we're going to talk NBA, and we are going to talk Major League Baseball. But right now, we done talk. Thanks for watching the show, guys. Have a good night. Coach Wondergeddon Podcast.